Zeno, thanks for being here with me, joining me on this session.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to chat.
I'm excited to talk to you as well. Just before we started recording, I mentioned you where I met you first in the Next.js Conf. I came across the uh, beautiful applications and technologies that you have been behind, such as React Email and Resend, and I've created videos on them and enjoyed using them. And I met you in person in Next.js Conf, and I was like, oh, I got to talk to Zeno. I came and we talked, and that's how I got the nice recent sweatshirt. So for folks who may not know your background, why don't you kickstart with taking us back? Give us a little origin story of yours.
Yeah, for sure. Um, I was born in Brazil and I grew up there. I always loved computers. My parents were always pushing me to learn English and talking about the importance of, you know, being able to speak English, although I couldn't realize that those two things were going to be crucial in my career down the line. That's where I spent a lot of time, and went to CS. I got a CS degree. I went for that path, and right on my first year, uh, I was, working with Flash back then. So this was before HTML5, and that was the way you would build interactive web pages. And I used to love Flash. My first language was ActionScript 3, and I was and I remember being very frustrated when I was in university because they would teach me C and C++, and after coding for like an hour or two, I would compile and I would see this terminal just outputting a number. I would be like, wow. And I would go to this internship and I would code for an hour or two and I would compile my Flash file. And then it's like this crazy thing on the screen popping up everywhere. So I was drawn to front end. I was really drawn to front end. I tried doing back end. I remember after working with Flash for a while, I was like, oh, maybe people would tell me that, oh, if you want to really make some money with programming, you got to do Java, you got to do C sharp or whatever the language, right? And I got another job with Java, six other Java guys in the room. And then guess what? We needed to do some front end. And I would always do that. So I realized that, hey, I actually like this. This is the path that I should take. And HTML5 was my avenue to really stand out as a developer. So I would create experiments, I would build stuff with it. And that got a lot of attention, like Google had this Google experiments thing and they picked it up. And I started giving talks about HTML5. And suddenly I was going through this developer relations track, even though I wasn't even noticing that. But I was this part-time front-end developer, part-time developer advocate until I finally did that full time and I built a team around it. Ended up moving to an executive position at a previous company that I worked at as chief product officer. We grew the team from 2 to 70 people. We sold to McDonald's and all these big companies. So I did a little bit of that. Did a little bit of VP of DX at WorkOS, the previous company, and now I was like, maybe let me try to get all my experience with open source, all my experience building tools for developers, and let me try to build my own thing. Let's see what comes out of it. And that's how Resend was born, through that desire of just building something better for myself and for others. And I felt like the email space was so, there's no love on the email space, truly. Like all the tools that I was using at my job, as side projects, like all these tools were like just not there, not built for me as an engineer. So we we tried to build the Vercel of email, the Stripe of email. That was the experiment of Recent, and yeah, here we are.
Awesome. So Resend was first, then React email, or the other way around?
Yeah, this is interesting because we were building Resend, and then we were like, oh, there's something here, there's something here. Oh, maybe this is a thing. And then we sent to a friend of mine, and then he started using production. And then I was like, hey, if you're using production, here's a Stripe payment link. You should pay for it, right? And then he paid. I was like, oh, there's actually something here. People are willing to pay. Um, but then the question became, how are we going to go about this? Are we going to come out of nowhere and say, hey, here's a product for you to send email? It's not like I was inserted in the email community. I was definitely inserted in the open source developer community, but not in the email space necessarily. So we felt this pain of building email templates ourselves. We felt like to build a template that looks really nice, it's so much work to make it look good on Gmail and Outlook and Superhuman. So not even the old email clients, but also in the new email clients like Hey, all that kind of stuff. And it felt like you're using archaic technology. It felt like I was coding back in the university with archaic HTML. So we were like, this is not how it's supposed to be. Like, you should be able to use React, you should be able to use Tailwind, all the cool tech stack that you have today for the web. You should be able to use that for emails and email development too. So we started building React email in parallel, and then we launched React email in December 2022, and then January 2023 that's when we introduced Resend. So it was very intentional. We wanted to first give, and then we would ask later. So it's like, hey, here's an open source project. Here's how you can use email uh, in a modern way. We had a lot of conviction in that solution too, and it picked it up really well. Folks started using and giving feedback, and then we introduced Resend. So, yeah.
Pretty much at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So my experiences with emails is for anyone who has tried to customize a template in emails, it's just a pain. It really feels like you are coding 10 years ago
Yeah.
in even the elements that you can use inside an email, it's different. So I think I first came across React email and how easy it is to just use the common components and tools that you're familiar with now to design the email. And then the resend is just makes it super easy to use the APIs to send the emails there. So it's a very nice combination altogether, tapping into a problem that nobody was addressing, as if everybody is just dealing with the pain. They're like, okay, this is the way we do emails.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just leave it at that. And then you kind of introduced a new solution for that pain point that
It,
everybody come across.
it's funny because when you think about creating something, there's always that, I don't know, there's some sort of folklore around the aha moment, the innovation aspect of building something. So, a lot of people are drawn to AI because they see this as this new opportunity, this new wave of things that it's going to unlock. And it's all true. I'm not saying it's not. I feel like that's just amazing, and we should all build a lot of stuff around it. But you can also look at your existing pain points, the existing tools that you use. If you examine what are the 5 desktop apps that you're currently using and it's currently open in your setup, which ones do you love and which ones you're just using because you gotta use it? Or the SaaS apps that you subscribe to on your personal level or in your company, and just building something that exists. So taking an old problem with a different spin, I feel like that's fascinating. I feel like more people should do that. And there's so many industries that are not attractive. Like, when people think about email, it's not like they're like, oh yeah, this is so exciting, like, oh, it's This is not Next.js. This is not like something that people immediately imagine as something that is hyped or something that is loved. So that's why we wanted to take on this problem. Like, yeah, this is a 30-year-old industry. No one cares about it. Like, no one is showing love. All the top five companies, they all started in 2010. They all have been acquired by now. Maybe there's time for a new player. And, I really believe in that 10-year technology cycle. It's almost like every 10 years our tools change. And we want Resend to be the de facto choice. When you think about sending email, we want Resend to be what comes in your mind.
I agree with you, and I like the way that you kind of gave context to people thinking of starting the next big thing and that always chasing the new shiny object instead of finding problems or finding solutions to existing problems or reiterating over the current solutions. When I think about like big companies for streaming music or the way that we now watch, movies on Netflix or Uber, it's just finding a better solution to a problem that has been before. And as you
Hmm.
mentioned, it's not exciting. It's not something new. It's just solving the problem in a better way. And it's something that's maybe not a new shiny object like AI is right now, but um, because of the mass usage, it has that effect of being the next big thing because everybody streams music, everybody watches movies, everybody needs a cap, everybody needs to send an email. If you are a web developer building sites, one way or another, you have to use emails, you have to design emails, or you have to work with email APIs. So I like the take there. Now, why don't we take it to as a developer now? I think maybe the dream for any one of us or some of us is to have our own company or create our own SaaS application or become an entrepreneurs. I want to dive a little bit deeper into your journey there. You mentioned that you were working for WorkOS, which is an amazing company, as a developer advocate, and then kind of founding your own company here. What was the journey there? I know you've been part of YC, the Y Combinator. So walk us through that journey and takeaways for anybody in similar positions or in this journey to want if they wanted to kind of go down the same path of creating their own business, their own company, their own product, if there's any.
Yeah, no, man, this whole thing was such an emotional roller coaster because as someone who was employed for 12 years already, working multiple jobs, the idea of starting something on my own was extremely scary. And when you look really deep, you find all these childhood traumas around it too. Like my dad was an entrepreneur when when I when I was born. My dad had just left his job and he was selling superhero costumes. And he was, he would make those costumes on his own, like Batman and Superman costumes. And then on over the weekend we would go to like a street fair and sell those. And that's how I've seen that was my whole life growing up. We would make those things and then we would sell on Sunday. And there were weekends that it would rain and then we wouldn't sell. And then I'm like, oh, okay, so this week is gonna we're gonna be tight in cash and we're gonna have to, ask for money for someone and stuff like that. So my role model growing up was not like a positive experience. It was actually a lot of struggle, a lot of pain, a lot of ups and downs. So there was a lot about deconstructing those things, and there were many things that helped me along the way to make that happen. So one of them that I can give as an example is Dracula. So I don't know for those who are familiar, but there's this theme called Dracula that's available on VS Code and every other code editor. And I built that theme in 2013, I guess that's when I started. And now is like one of the most popular themes out there. We There's like 6 million downloads, installs on VS Code alone. So there's just a lot of awareness, a lot of people using. It's available in more than 300 apps and stuff like that. In 2020, I decided to build, like, to learn more about sales. I was like, oh, let me do Dracula Pro. Let me try to sell this, which is a crazy idea. Who would pay for a theme on your code editor or in your terminal? Like, no one, right? Turns out people paid for it. Like, we sold more than $300,000 with Dracula Pro. It's crazy. And this was like a bootstrapped idea, side project that I was running. But that taught me, like, wow, selling stuff on the internet is actually super powerful. It's difficult because I'm not used to asking, right? Like, I'm used to building. I'm a developer. So I got to ask for money. That feels weird, right? Like,
Awkward, yeah.
super awkward. It feels like you're doing something wrong in a way. I don't know why we feel that way, but at least I felt that way. And I but that was really cool to unlock that, hey, I'm not my dad, and the business that I'm doing only with Dracula, forget about Resend, this was like 2020. There was a lot of parallels that I could take, and I remember having this conversation with my wife about it. I was like, why am I so afraid about starting my own thing? And then I started to do like a very conscious uh, comparison table between my dad's business and what I was doing with Dracula. So my dad was like, oh, so he sells only in this one city. Cool. Dracula, I'm selling to folks all over the world. So that's not a problem. He used to sell only in one day of the week. Dracula, even when I'm sleeping, I wake up, I see the Stripe notification. So that's great. Um, oh, this is for a market that it's like, if it rains, it still sells, like that kind of stuff. And that was like, oh yeah, so this is a different business. Why
All
am
the
I
pain
so,
points that you have
you know,
experienced in that other
uh,
one.
and it's just, yeah, the cost of replication. So the cost of doing a costume, there's a lot of manual work, materials, with Dracula, it was a zip. It's not like I had more cost as I sold new units of that product. So I really recommend folks to just look inwards and try to think about, if you are a builder, if you're attracted to that idea of building your own thing, what are the things that are blocking you to do that? What are those insecurities? And those are extremely hard to face. I feel like I face them every single day still. It's not like I got over them. Maybe I just put them a little bit to the side and I try not to think about them daily, but they're still there. Um, so I think the foundation, and we can talk about the whole story with YC. There's a lot of great lessons learned there too. But yeah, just starting there, of like trying to uncover, and leaving my job was super hard because I was the only one working in my family. I still had to support my parents and stuff like that. So it's not like, as an immigrant living in the US, like, no one is going to save me. So if I don't have money to pay my bills that month, it's not like I can ask someone to like help me or support me. It's like, no, it's just me. So like leaving my job was extremely scary. Um, so it was definitely a combination of just building that confidence that you can do it yourself, and then facing those insecurities, and then trying to make it work, make the numbers work if things go sideways, right? So, yeah.
Yep, I appreciate you sharing this background story because I think it is relatable to so many of us. Our past experiences shape who we are and how we approach life and challenges and opportunities in the future. And the fact that you have had this experience in your childhood, going through this hardship of seeing your father and his business as an entrepreneur without having a fixed salary every month or that guarantee, and then the challenges that come from it. I think it has given you the lessons that you need, uh, even when drawing comparison or when you wanted to take that first step or structure your business. You're always having this experience behind on the back of your mind, and it needs courage to face it. It needs courage to act despite that fear, despite that insecurity, to say, hey, I've had this experience, but here are the stuff that I can do. Here's how it's different. And I'm going to see what happens. And I take an action and do it. I put it out there. So I really appreciate you sharing that, because all of us in one way or another have these type of limiting beliefs that may stop us from creating something amazing. In your case, had you not done the theme and then the email
Mm-hmm.
and then resend, we wouldn't have been here. We wouldn't have had those technologies, or it would still be working in somebody else's company, which is good too. So it's not us putting that down. That's
Yeah.
also okay. But if you have an idea, or if you have that desire to create something of your own, you're going to have to face with those limiting beliefs, because we all have it in one shape or another. So I really appreciate you sharing that. Now, coming back to selling, it's interesting that you mentioned that it's I've had that kind of feeling about selling
Mm-hmm.
as well, and I don't know what it is about it. I also share the same values. I'm good at building, but and I kind of expect people to, you know, use it if they like it, use it if they
Mm-hmm.
see any value in it. If they don't, that's okay. So I'm not here to convince or force anything to anyone. So I always had this stigma around selling. And what happened for me personally was I started putting this content around Next.js on YouTube or writing about
Mm-hmm.
it without having the intention to sell anything off of it. And then, because of the amount of questions and comments and confusions that was in the community, specifically when the new version of the app router came out, I started putting together some, a course, some
Mm-hmm.
material, some of the videos. And then, off of these videos that I was doing on YouTube, not even talking about the course, people started buying the course. And I was like, okay, this is the best way for me to approach sales, because I would never make a promotional video about my course. It's just, this
Yeah.
is the content. If you like it, if it's valuable, here's a course. If you want to learn more, sure. And people are buying it. And I was like, this type of marketing, or this type of putting your content out there, creating value first, as you mentioned, give first, and then ask, or even don't even ask, because
Mm-hmm.
you have built that trust and
Trust.
authority, and you have provided value. People are going to trust and like you when they need something. So if you have a course, they buy it. If you have a subscription for your app, they're going to subscribe, and so forth and so on. And I think this is the new way of selling, really. Nobody
Mm-hmm.
likes to be sold to. If you have been provided with value, you're going to come back more and again.
Yeah. And I totally believe that, people, they don't buy from companies, they buy from people. Could you measure the impact that Guillermo Rauch with his personal brand had on Vercel? Do you think Vercel will be where it's at if it wasn't for that too? Like, that's the same for you, with your course. Like, people are buying because it's you, because they already trust you. And um, yeah, my relationship with asking money got very different, because what I see, that money now, like it's a symbol. It's a symbol that, hey, I'm giving this to you, and if it's really good, people are going to give it back. And if it's not, they are not. And that's good too. Like, knowing that people are not going to buy for something, there's something there. Especially if you're building a SaaS product, then it's like, maybe your product isn't as good as you think. Maybe it doesn't have all the features that it needs to have. Uh, so yeah, that transaction is really interesting to me, because there's a message behind that transaction. Whenever someone swipes their credit card, they are telling you something. In your case, they're telling you that, hey, I trust you. Thank you for your all your YouTube content for years that you've been recording, and thank you. Here's my way of thanking you. Hey, I trust your authority. I think you know Next.js more than a lot of people knows about it. So here's my way to show this appreciation. Or it could be way more selfish too. Like, hey, my job is pressure. My boss is pressuring me to do this thing in Next.js. If I don't do it, I'm going to lose my job. Oh my gosh, I got to learn this. Okay, I found this random guy and he looks good. And okay, let me just do this. So yeah, it's funny. I feel like more people should charge for their stuff, um, because it teaches you something. And in this founder journey, what I've learned to appreciate is this mindset of seeking the truth. If your product sucks, yeah, it sucks. Yeah, and you got to do something about it. If your videos suck, you got to do something about it, or otherwise stop doing or doing something else or improving here or there. So yeah, there's something about creating, which is very illuminating, and there's something about charging for what you created, which is also very illuminating. And I feel
I
like most people stop on the first one, and they should uncover the
continue.
second one too.
I it that's I'm amazed because um, I've never thought about it this way. Uh, but actually, people charging for what they're building, not in a selfish way, but in a way to measure how good is what they have created as a data point to say, hey, people are happy, they like it, it's valuable, it is solving a problem, or no, I just thought it is, but it isn't. So that's a very nice way of putting it. I mean, the engagement that you get on a piece of content, sometimes you would see it from, how much people are sharing it or liking it or leaving comments for it. But when you ask somebody to pay for it, it goes beyond that, because when it's free, everybody may be just nice. Everybody may
Mm-hmm.
tell you that you have a great
Mm-hmm.
idea, but once
Mm-hmm.
you ask them to pay for it, they're like, maybe not really. Maybe it needs more features, or maybe it can be better. So I like the way that you put it there. Um, so founder's journey and seeking truth,
Mm-hmm.
um, are these two related for you, or have they been related in any shape or form, or how are you actively trying to seek the truth?
It's funny because I wasn't that way. I was not a person that would seek truth. I would say as a mental model that didn't come natural to me. So there are many flaws that I had as a professional working for others that I would simply, maybe I would blame my boss when they would give me a negative feedback, or there was just like something that I wouldn't do, and I would have all these other excuses to say like, oh yeah, I didn't prioritize because of all these other things. But as I started to build my own company, it's incredibly amazing how all of your flaws are right in front of you. They're staring at you every single day. You are faced with the fact that you're not as good as a manager as you thought you would be. You're not as good as a builder that you thought you would be. Uh, there's so much that you don't know, like navigating fundraising and stuff like that. That was all new to me. We ended up raising like $3 million for Resend from folks that I admire a lot, like the founder of Figma. I'm like, it's crazy. I never thought I would even meet that guy, and now he's putting his money on my company. Like, how amazing is that? So I would say I was forced to seek the truth as I started to build my own thing, and now that's all I do. Uh, like it's all I do. Yeah, I don't care about documents or PowerPoint presentations. Like, I care about shipping. I care about looking every single week if we're growing in terms of revenue or not. Because if we're not, there's a sign, there's a message that's hidden there. Maybe there's stuff that we need to tweak. So it's definitely a journey, but I wouldn't want to go back to a life where I'm just putting my flaws, under the carpet, like, or behind a curtain. No, let me look at them. Let me address them. And if I don't, then this thing won't work, because it ultimately is gonna boil down to how fast can you evolve as a CEO. Because the CEO that your company needs today is very different than the CEO that Resend needed a year ago. And it's going to be a different person a year from now. Imagine 5 or 10 years from now. Like, every single month, I need to reinvent myself. It's crazy. It's like incredibly hard to do that. But I prefer that way than, yeah, than just pretending that I know everything, uh, and trying to feel good about it. Like, I prefer to, yeah, see the reality.
Yeah. And I appreciate that. I didn't know you to this level, and I haven't had the chance to talk in this depth with you. But I appreciate. I think the amount of vulnerability that you're bringing to your day-to-day business, yourself, your motivations, your insecurities, your journey as a developer, as a founder, now as a CEO, and I think this is applicable to all of us. It's not only when you're the CEO that you need to reinvent yourself, that you need to have self-awareness and seek truth and face your own weaknesses or admit them, not try to be pretentious or project something that you're not, rather try to improve. It's adapting a growth mindset in any area that we are, as a developer, as an employee, and as an employer, as a CEO. It's how can I learn? How can I improve? Um, what are my mistakes? What are the things that I need to learn? And I appreciate that, because it's hard to face it sometimes. Even from my point of view, creating the content, again, I'm trying to resonate internally with
Mm-hmm.
everything that you're saying, is when you're creating content, you have this tendency for it to be perfect,
Yeah.
because now you're putting this content, teaching everybody else about Next.js, and you're like, I should be the guru here. I should be the
Mm-hmm.
one, the expert.
Mm-hmm.
But I battle this a lot of times to bring myself back down to the ground and say, hey, I may be just a guide, somebody that just learned
Mm-hmm.
maybe a month ahead of somebody else, maybe just learned this, figured this out, uh, this new technology, and putting it out there. But there's this battle of wanting it to be perfect, wanting it to be flawless, rather than uh, being sincere, being
Mm-hmm.
imperfect, and putting yourself out there exactly the way that you are, vulnerable and with all the goods and bads together. And I find the ones, or the content, or the products, or people who are more genuine, are more relatable, because everybody has those ups and downs. Something that looks just uh, perfect may not be that relatable. And this is a struggle for myself too. I'm trying to make the content as deliver it as genuinely as possible, as an authentically as possible, to just be the way that it is. And I think um, that's a that's a great intention to at least have in our minds, that we're not perfect. In how can we grow?
Yeah. It's funny because uh, we're all trying to be better. And there's something beautiful about being vulnerable, because when you are vulnerable yourself, other people feel like they have the permission to be too. And this is especially interesting in a team dynamic. It doesn't matter if you're the boss, if you're the manager, or if you're just getting started, and there are all these peers that are working alongside you. Whenever you're vulnerable, you allow other people to be around you. So that coworker that might be feeling down, they can also say like, hey, yeah, today wasn't that good. We have these conversations at Recent all the time. Like, my co-founder would go, the whole team is there, and he would say, yeah, yesterday, like, it was not a good day. I wasn't in a good headspace. I couldn't deliver as much. I was not productive, but today I'm feeling better mentally, and I want to tackle these things. Cool. Like there's a level of appreciation, and now we're just taking our masks. We are not at our 100% every single day. That's just not the reality. So why pretend that we are? We're not, and I'm sure there are many of your students that are way better than you in so many areas, right? I'm sure they are amazing maybe at databases, and maybe that's something like, oh, that I got to improve here and there, or like you can never be a complete 100% amazing engineer, right? Like there are always little things that you don't know. Maybe you don't know rejects as much as the other person who's trying to learn more about Next.js, and that's the beauty of it. The fact that you're creating content doesn't necessarily uh, communicates that, hey, you know everything about that. And when people ask you a question, I remember in talks that I would give, like by the end of the talk, someone asked me something, and then I'll be like, I don't know the answer to this question, but hey, I'm gonna research and I'll get back to you. And that's the reality. Other than saying, then and then like trying to give an answer that then you're like, is this really true? This looks weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I have had this feeling where somebody asks this question, maybe early um, on the videos. Uh, I thought I need to know the
Mm-hmm.
answer because I'm just now putting these videos out. Otherwise, why would anyone listen? But then over time, I was like, yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know how you would do this. I don't know how you do that. Sometimes I could research, I can point them in the right directions, and they would find the answer, and they would then share it with me, and I would then ask them to maybe make a PR to the repo so that we can incorporate whatever it is that they created into the project, and that created a very good collaboration that wouldn't have been otherwise created if I just pretended to be know it all. It would have just blocked everybody from sharing. Now I know. Now I'm like, I don't know. Maybe you research and you tell me. Maybe you teach
Mm-hmm.
me what it is or how it is, and that I think it's a better kind of discourse, at least for me in my community. And as you mentioned, inside of a company, it would be great to see your seniors actually are real humans
Yeah.
and they're just being vulnerable and being staying true to themselves and everybody around them.
Yeah. It's all about being human, and being human means we're not perfect. So it's better to accept that as truth than trying to pretend that it's not there.
I like that. I like that. Now that we have taken this tangent,
We're getting very deep here, right? Like
yeah,
very emotional.
yeah, exactly. Not your typical web development podcast there, but I love it. Now that we're here, I saw this article on your site about two types of quality, and you're diving into the Japanese way of thinking about building products and qualities there. Why don't you share a little bit there? I love that article, and I want to hear it from yourself.
I absolutely love that thing, and I would highly encourage everybody to go there. It like I could throw away everything that I've ever written and just have that one piece online, and I would be happy about it, because I feel like there really is, the these two types of qualities, in the sense that when you see products, there are products that work and products that amaze you, like, and the one of the examples that I give there is like Jira and Linear, right? Jira works, it's fine. Actually, people do like to hate on Jira these days, and it almost like makes it a joke, uh, of using Jira, and but it works. So it's quality that is, uh, you can see, right? Just like a chair would be. It's like it works. It's there. You sit, and it serves its purpose. And then there's quality that you can perceive as amazing quality. You can taste. and it communicates something else too. So I remember I joined the call here and I made a comment about your background and your video setup. This is quality that I can perceive. This is better than the average. And this communicates that you care about what you do. Because if you didn't, you would just call it a day. But I'm sure you spent 20 hours watching YouTube videos on how to do your best setup. You research, you bought stuff that you already threw out because it didn't go well with your background, and maybe the lights didn't work here and there. So you actually spend money on stuff that you're not using until you finally got the setup that you're in now. And I'm sure there are little things that you wanted to be better, and you keep evolving. So this is all being said without you saying a single word to me, but I know that deeply. So for me, when I'm using linear, in that example of Jira versus linear, that's quality that I can perceive, and I'm like, wow, these guys, look at the performance of this product, look at how amazing this is, the quality of the design. Uh, every single interaction that I have is super snap, and it's just a good feeling to use. So for me, that's what it comes down to. Whenever I'm building something, I want to build something that people are inspired by. It's so good that they can't help themselves but share with their teams and people that they love. So recently we put up this philosophy page that talks about the DX principles that we have, like all the developer experience things that we believe in. And I wanted this to come across that, hey, we care this so deeply that we are willing to put up a web page about it. We have all these little effects on it. And yeah, it's, and people, I want people to feel like, wow, this is so cool that I got to put on my company's all inspiration channel, and then everybody would see that as something, oh, we should be doing that too, or look at this. So I really believe in that. And I feel like most people just call it a day. If I'm building an open source project, I push the code, that's good enough. No, you got to spend your time on a README, on the instructions, and make that README look sexy and engaging. And the get started code needs to be extremely easy to use and get started. Uh, when you go to the docs, it needs to be amazing. It's not like just putting up 3 pages and that's it. No, uh, but people stop on that level one, that first layer of quality. But making it work is not enough in 2024. I feel like you gotta be pushing to a new bar, and that's what I'm trying to do with Resend. Not just push a new bar for us, but push the bar for the entire industry. How can we make the entire industry better? And that's hard, man. That's not easy at all. That's super hard.
It is, and but I want to acknowledge that as somebody that is using a lot of these tools, I think Resend is a true example of that type of quality, the perceived quality, or uh, what you have talked about in that article. We're going to include a link in the description for folks who are interested to read that because I found it interesting. But I think you've already accomplished that. You are in that journey at Resend because even React Email, both of them, they excuse me, they look fantastic. They're very easy to use, from the documentation to the appearance of the site to the experience as a developer, just navigating through your way of creating an email or sending an email was so easy. And I loved the two videos. It was so super easy. And it came with a lightness when I created the videos on these two packages. So I think you have taken it to heart and you're actually a living example of that at heart and in the company. So um,
We can
great
still
job
make
there.
it better though. There's some
Yeah,
stuff that I'm still not like, we can make it better here or there,
of
but
course.
we're
Of
getting there.
course. Of course. You're on the right path for sure. There's always it's a never ending uh, journey
It's
that
never ending. Yeah.
you would never reach that destination. It's just
Yeah.
evolving
Yeah.
as we go. Now, one thing that I want to ask, as a selfish ask, is please create more examples for React email. Sometimes we're just
Hmm.
lazy as developers. We want more examples to just copy and paste instead of having to
For sure.
create.
I know the feeling, yeah. And you know it's beautiful, like Shad CDN's UI project. That that was the best display of how we are as developers. We are lazy. We don't want to, and we don't want to download. Like we just want to copy and paste. So just give
Yeah,
me the, yeah, it's Command C, Command V. That's all. That's
exactly.
all I want.
Give us the copy, the command C,
Mhm.
command V of emails,
Yep.
similar to Shatsian for sure. Awesome. So we didn't talk about the Y Combinator. I think it's a
Hmm.
crazy experience that maybe not all of us would come across that opportunity or be involved in such a thing. So
Hmm.
uh, tell us what you learned in that experience. How was it? How did you end up even um, in there?
Yeah, so I was very happy working at WorkOS, and we were building that side project, but it was just an idea. It was not nothing real, or we're just experimenting with that concept. And we were like, let's apply to our combinator because I had applied in the past with a cheese app that I built out for fun too, and I got rejected right away. They didn't even came to talk to me. But that experience was good too because I understood that, wow, like just filling out that that form with all the questions they ask, it actually teaches a lot about what you're building. It makes you think about like, okay, where I'm taking this and pros and cons and all of different things around that. So we just fill that out as an exercise and without any hopes to get in. We sent, and then eventually they replied and said, oh yeah, we want to invite you for an interview. And I started to freak out when I got that email. I'm like, no way, oh my gosh, this is the opportunity of my life, I gotta make this happen. Wow, I can't believe, like, and we're not in yet, but just having the chance to interview was such a big deal for me. And I was crazy. I was like going around and talking to folks and asking for help and like going through my network and trying to find people who have been through IC before or just cold emailing folks who have been before and trying to understand how is that interview. And that's just like a 10-minute interview that you have to convince why you're worthy of going through IC. And it's hard, like they really put the pressure. You join and it's not even like, hey, hi, there's no how's it going, there's no chit chat. It's just boom, straight to the point. They come and they ask you all these difficult questions, and they want to see you performing under pressure too. And that's a part of the whole idea of, can you communicate value in in 10 minutes? Can it, because once you have your company, that's how you're going to be talking to investors, that's how you're going to be talking to customers. Like, you won't have all the time in the world, and they will ask you difficult questions. So that's what they did during this interview, and we got in somehow. We got in, and it's a the if you look at the acceptance rate, like 20,000 people apply every 6 months or so, and only 250 companies join each batch. And getting in, my attitude was, we're joining not to be the fifth best company or the 100th best company. We're going for number one. If we're doing this thing, I'm putting all my effort on this thing. And I'm sure there'll be all these brilliant kids from Stanford coming in. I was like, I think I met maybe two or three other dads. I already have a 2-year-old daughter, and like many people were like, wow, you're old. Like, what are you doing here? And I was like, I'm just gonna go for it. This is the chance of my life. And that's why we bought Resend.com as a domain in the first place. I remember like thinking that we needed a .com domain. That was non-negotiable. I needed a .com, and I needed a strong .com. When you think about Resend, it's a six-letter dictionary word. That's not an easy domain to get. So I remember paying money from my own cash even before we got the YC uh, grant that they give you, just because I had a lot of conviction and confidence that we're gonna make something out of this, even if it like by sheer will of force, this will work, and I will put every single second of my life into this. So yeah, well, we were very lucky to get in, and once we got in, now we have more than 140 companies already using uh, Resend in production from YC. So we really tapped into that network, and the whole thesis was, if YC truly is the place where the best founders in the world are, then how can we build a product that meets that bar? Because these people are going to be demanding. It's not like they're going to be accepting crappy products. So we're very intentional about tap into that community, just like Superbase did, just like PostHog did, Brex, Stripe, all these other companies. And now we are in that top 10 most used companies within YC, and we're very proud of it too.
That's great. That's amazing to hear. I think what I unpacked from that experience is sometimes the pressure is a privilege. Now, I'm talking about the pressure in this context. Now, sometimes people go through pressures that may not be a privilege, but in this context, maybe the pressure of going through the YC and you wanting to, now that you have this chance, you want to make the best out of it. Maybe it's even why Resend is where it is today. If it wasn't for that pressure or that desire in you to just push through and make the best out of this opportunity that you just got in, you obviously made the best out of it. But sometimes the pressure or the hardship that we're going through shapes us into the people that we will come from the other end. And for you was the example of this company or creating an amazing product, getting into YC and then shaping it to what it is today. Um, and for other people can be whatever hardship that they're going through, being parents, having younger kids, working at two jobs and working on a side hustle, on a project on the weekends, or working or hustling a bit harder. Whatever comes out uh, is what's shaped through this pressure that creates that um, end product.
That's so true.
Now, you mentioned coming from Brazil. I saw this post the other day from you that you immigrated to uh, the US about
Mhm.
8 years ago um, with your wife, and what that process has made you understand and appreciate about other immigrants. I am also a first generation immigrant to Canada. I came here, I think, about 12, 15 years ago.
Wow,
Uh,
that's
yeah.
awesome.
So I share the pain the pain, as I might say, with you there, or I share the appreciation for anybody that has gone through this journey. It's really hard. On top of everything else that you're doing, it's just such a major change. Um, I want you to also share or shed some light in that experience for other people that may be in the same shoes, just moved out of their own homeland from friends and families to a new country for a better opportunity, for a better life for their family, for their kids, going through some hardship. So, walk us through your experience, what you were thinking in those days, what made you just wanting to move to US, how was the experience has been, and what you've learned.
Yeah, first of all, so nice to hear your story too, man. And yeah, I have deep appreciation for sure for everything that you've done to get to where you are now. Um, I feel like people that don't go through that, they can't even phantom the difficulties that we go through. It's not easy to be away from your family. During my time here, this past few years, I've seen my grandpa die. I see my grandma die, and I couldn't go to their funerals because just traveling to Brazil to get there, it was already, it was already gone. There was no time to even attend that. So
Sorry
it's
to hear
hard.
that.
Yeah. And it's, that's just life, that there's a lot of things that makes it difficult for you to not be close to the place you call home. And what really drove me is just the idea of giving a better future. And I didn't have a daughter back then, but I was already thinking, wow, if I could give more opportunities to my future kids, that would be really cool. Of course, I was selfish about me too. I want to have comfort. I want to have the things I want to have. I want to have a nice Mac. I want a MacBook. I don't want a Windows computer. Like silly things like that, where just getting access to certain technology or getting access to people. I remember just wanting to be where people that are building stuff also were. And for me, that was the US. I'm like, I love tech. I want to be among the best in tech. Where are these people? Oh, they're in California. That's where I'm going. So just seeking that. And it's a balance of what are you willing to trade off? What are you willing to give up? I've seen a lot of people that come and then they're super excited in the first 6 months and they can't handle. They're like, no, this is not for me. I won't make this trade off. I would much rather go back, and even if I don't have the same opportunities, that's fine to me. And I totally respect that. And I also respect folks who just push through and they try to make this new place as their home. Somehow, they adjust, they find people from their country that live nearby and they build their own little community. And yeah, it's definitely difficult. But you also learn a lot about yourself, about what do you really care, what do you really can't. If I don't go every year for Christmas, my family will kill me. They will be like, this is non-negotiable. And now, like that was early on. Now it's me. Like if I don't go, my wife one day suggested, maybe we skip this year. I was like, no way, we're not skipping. Like this is non-negotiable. We're always going. So little things like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's uh, it's definitely it's definitely nice to be able to go back and being in place that you are founding some success through the hardship that immigration has or all the efforts that you have gone through to now have to be in a position to say, hey, you know what, now I want to make this non-negotiable to just go back and visit my family that's important for me, or go back home, visit the country, visit the place that I grew up in, or maybe take my children there so that they can
Mhm.
see what I where I lived or where I kind of grew up. I can hear your daughter, I think, on the background. She's like, "This is enough. This is supposed to be only 1 hour. I need my dad back." Okay, man, I'm not going to hold you any longer. I enjoyed the conversation with you, with all the aspects that we have gone through, getting to know you better on a deeper level, sharing a lot of um, common grounds when it comes to development or comes to just being a human, being an immigrant, just trying to make an effort to make something great or grow in all shapes or forms. So I really enjoyed it. I want to thank you for first of all being here and accepting to join me on this conversation. And second of all, I want to acknowledge uh, your contribution to the tech industry, to the products that you have created, and to the ease you're creating for developers like me.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. There's a lot to do. I feel like I'm just getting started. So yeah, let's continue to build cool shit. Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Absolutely, absolutely, man. One last request. Since I have a huge um, Brazilian audience, as I can tell
Mm-hmm.
from the comments and people engaging me from there. I want you to speak in your Portuguese language with them and ask them to subscribe if they find
Oh, nice. Cool. I
any
like that.
value or whatever you want to say. If you're not going for a salesy approach.
Bom, primeiro, obrigado a todo mundo que ouviu ou que vai ouvir esse vídeo. Espero que tenha sido útil e, pô, vamos apoiar, vamos dar essa força, deixar o like, o subscribe e é isso aí. Obrigado.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that, Zeno. It was great having you here, and hopefully we'll continue talking.
Cool. Thank you so much. See
All
you,
the best to you,
everybody.
man. See you. Bye bye.